So I see that increasingly people are joining us in our virtual living room here. While you get all comfortable on your virtual couch, I would like to remind everyone that we have a transformation study tour happening at 11:30 later today. It will be a virtual study tour, of course, very much in line with the unfortunate situation that we are facing with the COVID emergency. Probably we will have to get more and more used to this kind of study tours, but it's definitely a great opportunity to learn more about the beautiful city of Mannheim. And I understand that there is also a nice little package for one of you as a gift, a nice weekend for 2 people in the city of Mannheim there. So hopefully you can take advantage of this opportunity and have a sneak peek of how the city looks like and what you can probably be able to also visit in person should you be the lucky one. So that's just a quick reminder. And I would say we wait another minute or 2 to see who else joins us, and then we can get started. So I think I will start our session today with a very big welcome to all of our speakers, and of course a very big welcome also to our attendees that are rapidly joining us to learn more about what to do while facing this climate emergency and how to go beyond it, moving from ambitions to action. So this will be the theme of the discussion that we have today. While unfortunately 2020 might pass to the history as the year of COVID, 2019 was a very remarkable year for our countries and for our cities all over the world. Especially here in Europe, a lot of youth took the streets to demonstrate and to tell us how important it is to urgently act now. It was probably the year of the declaration of climate emergency. In line with what scientists have been saying, the urgency really felt something important to the public, and we have over 1,700 national, regional, local governments that have been expressing their ambition to take really publicly action by declaring climate emergency. And this is just something that tops up all the other declarations and the other commitments that have been undertaken by local governments worldwide. This includes becoming 100% renewable. This includes becoming climate neutral by 2050, by 2030, really an increase in ambition and in the desire of really taking action and do something to tackle the issue of climate change. But today we want to go a little bit more deep into this conversation. We don't want to discuss just about the importance of declaring such commitments, but we want to see how these declarations are really being brought forward, what is their political meaningfulness, and also to try to assess what the impact on the ground has been for our cities. So we will discuss what is the underlying meaning for our climates, for these climate emergencies for cities, how can these declarations support ambitious action, if it does or if it doesn't. We will learn more about it today. How does it work in comparison to other types of commitment? And most of all, how can this declaration and commitment can be translated into action. So these are the different things that we will be discussing today, and we look forward to exchange not only with our panelists, but also with you, of course. The session of today is hosted in cooperation with our 2 EU-funded projects that I want to mention just now, because of course they can also provide you some insight on what others have been doing in regards to furthering climate action. So one of them is CITRAC 50, with the aim of mobilizing and guide public authorities at the local, but also the regional level, to achieve climate resilience and carbon neutrality by 2050. So extremely fitting to the discussion of today. And the other project is Urban LEDS, also EU-funded, that looks into how to facilitate and enable the development of low-emission strategies in cities across the world with a specific outlook towards developing economies. So these are, let's say, a few remarks just to set the scene on the discussion that we will have today. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the panelists that will taking us and accompany us today in our journey of discussion about how to go beyond climate emergency. So first of all, a few words about myself. My name is Giorgia Rambelli. I'm a coordinator for climate policy and energy governance at the ICLE European Secretariat. And with me today, I will have the pleasure to have Mr. Lasse Puertanueva Olsen. He is the Mayor for Environment and Energy at the municipality of Aalborg in Denmark. Thank you very much for being with us today, Lasse. The second person that I have the pleasure to exchange with today is Maria Jesus Munoz. Maria is actually a climate change technician at IHOBE in the Basque Country. Welcome, Maria. Thank you for being with us today. The next is Michal Lyons. He's from the Cork City Council in Ireland. We are very happy to have you, Michal. Thank you for being with us. And then last but not the least, of course, Marta Bugaj. She's the head of economic unit of infrastructure department at the city of Warsaw in Poland. And thank you very much for being with us, Marta, today. So beyond, of course, our great lineup of speakers, I also have the pleasure to have with me a colleague, Silvia. Please turn on your camera for just a second to show your face. Silvia is in the same team as I work in the ICLE European Secretariat. She's an officer. She's with us working on climate and sustainable resources, and will be accompanying me today in the journey, trying to moderate your questions. So that's, I think, your first hint on how to participate into our session. You can type your comments into our chat function and ask your questions there in case of technical difficulties. But you can also use the Q&A button that you see just beside you, let's say the screen at your left, and there you can of course pose questions to the panel or to a specific speakers and interact with us. In addition to that, be careful, because we will ask for your contribution, and we will ask throughout our session also to participate into a couple of polls to gauge a little bit how you feel about climate emergency and what is your level of interest in it and how effective you think this has been for your city. So watch out for our different questions. So maybe, Silvia, I would actually like to start even to kick off our conversation with one of these polls. I understand, Silvia, that we have a specific question about whether you know if your city or your regional government has declared climate emergency. So we would like to know from you, participants and audience, to give us your feedback and let us know how and if this has happened in your city. While you take the time to answer to that question, I would like to trigger our first panel discussion with a bit of a provocative question, actually. Declaring climate emergency, is this just a publicity stunt, or is it really and truly a game changer for local governments? So I would like to know, and maybe I will start with Marta, perhaps, what is this reason for a city to actually declare climate emergency? And in your experience, what is also the reason for which a city would like to go for very ambitious commitments like climate neutrality, for example, or 100% renewable? Marta, what is your perspective from Warsaw? I think you need to mute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, do you hear me now? Okay, So in Warsaw, councillors adopted a declaration on climate emergency last summer during the same city council session when they adopted Warsaw adaptation strategy to climate change. So we have a quite hot and long discussion about climate change. And fortunately, no one from councillors was against. Opposition simply abstained from voting. And I think that it's worth to stress what you say at the beginning, that it was just after schools' climate strikes. And I think that this youth power which we experienced was very important in whole this process. Now in Warsaw, we are working on Green Climate Action Plan, which allow cutting us at least 30% of CO2 emissions, and also designate the path towards climate neutrality. And what is important in that process? Strong leadership, and Mayor Trzaskowski, who is mayor of Warsaw from 2 years, put climate action really high in his agenda. And we all know, people who are here, that without local communities, the ambitious climate neutrality goal of the European Green Deal will simply not happen. So to reach climate neutrality, we need everybody on board, from national government, local authorities, to the most importantly, I think, citizens, because they need to understand why the effort is worth it and have clearly see benefits that climate transition can bring to their health, to their well-being, but also to their wallet. And I think there is a special role for us, for local administration, because we are the closest to the people. And we have to remember that usually local level of administration enjoys the highest rate of people trust. So
thank you very much, Marta, for your contribution. And I would like now to dig a little bit more into what Marta has actually mentioned about the importance of bringing different people on board, and especially the citizens, and to really make them understand what is the benefit of such ambition. But also, I'm assuming to be a little bit accountable on what are the results of this kind of declaration. Maybe I would like to go all the way west now and ask Michal to give us his feedback and his contribution. How does that happen in Cork? What is the position of the different stakeholders? Was everyone on board? I'm afraid we cannot hear you. Now we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll start again. With regard to the declaration of a climate and biodiversity emergency, I do believe that we're getting into the sort of third and fourth strand of what people would call the sort of quadruple helix. So that we're looking at, for example, the municipalities, the local authorities themselves being convinced of the need for climate action. We're looking at the local research and academia knowing about it. And what we're trying to do is get down into the other strand of the business and get into the strand of the citizen. So just to talk about why I think we declared a climate emergency, there's a number of factors. An important one was the timing. We have a 5-year cycle in local government elections. And our last cycle was in June of last year. That's when we declared the climate emergency. There's been an awful lot more media coverage of climate in general. Also the Greta effect and the school children. And I would suggest that over the last 3 to 4 years, we in Cork, if not in Ireland itself, have experienced some very large for us, severe weather events. And that has really focused people's minds on it. So I think a lot of it comes down to a timing issue. And I do think that we're now trying to include or get buy-in from the local businesses and the citizens to really make a positive contribution here.
Thank you very much for sharing that point. And I see that when you were mentioning the Greta effect, several of our speakers were actually nodding. So I think indeed it did have the fact that climate was so profiled in the past year. I think it had indeed some sort of push for different local governments across Europe also to be more visibly active in this scene. And maybe then I would like to ask a question to Lasse, because Aalborg is one of these local governments that has been working on climate and sustainability for decades, I would say, extremely advanced, but you did not declare a climate emergency. Can I ask you what was the reason around that, and what kind of other commitments, because you have many, and I know that, as actually your city undertaken?
My